This is going to be recorded. I've just started recording right now. So if you don't want to be on voice later, if you raise your hand to ask a question or something like that, I don't know if we're going to have people speak, but that might be a good idea for longer form questions. Just note that it is being recorded and it will be shared. So if you prefer not to be recorded, then just put your question in writing in the AMA channel, and we'll answer it from there. All right, 1 minute. Let me go ahead and turn on my camera so you can all see me. Hello. It's not the best lighting in here. Hold on, let me see if I can. It's kind of cloudy today, so, and I don't have a light right in front of me. I should probably get, like a big fancy light. I will be sharing my screen during this, so yeah, we'll be good. If you hear any screaming and shouting, it's just my kids, doing who knows what to the house while I'm in here, so it's fine. Awesome. Okay. Well, we are recording this, so anybody who misses it, that's okay, because we'll post the recording, and so I think we'll go ahead and get started, and then yeah, we'll go from there. So, hello everybody. I am Nathan, and let me share my screen. That would be really helpful, you guys, if you really want to see what's going on over here. There we are. All right, cool. Now we can begin. So this is already going really well. All right. So I'm Nathan. I run the Japan Tour Company. I'm actually a software engineer by trade. Do mostly back-end web services, those kinds of things. Currently employed full-time doing that. I fell in love with Japan. Kept traveling back over and over again, essentially, and decided to turn that into kind of a side business. And so that's what I do with the Japan Tour Company that I created. I mostly send travelers on self-guided tours, things of that nature, where I support them from like WhatsApp while they're there. It's kind of concierge. I book all this stuff for them. I'm not just a travel agent where I give you some hotels and I send you on your way. I provide a detailed itinerary, a guidebook that I've created, a whole bunch of stuff. So that's kind of about my company. I do guide from a couple times a year, though I've been doing less of that lately. It's just not as scalable. And I am doing a Star Wars Celebration tour, which I'm really excited about. I have posted about that in the channel. I've got a few Star Wars fans kind of all collected together, hoping to get a few more from my last visit at Comic-Con. There are some people who are interested. So hopefully having a big full group, that'll be really fun. And I will be there at Celebration, so I'll be happy to meet any and all of you. And if you guys are having like a Discord meetup, I would love to come say hi and hang out. So, yeah. So I created this travel company, and as of today, I've sent over 100 travelers on self-guided tours. So that's kind of my experience and my background, and kind of like what's going on there. Yeah, so let's dive into this. So this whole presentation is going to be mostly about general need to know for traveling to Japan. I'm not going to cover every little minute detail about which train passes are the best passes. Should I get a metro pass? Should I get this? Those questions I will cover as they come in, but I'm trying to just not make this too long and too wordy. So COVID, we're going to start with that. There used to be COVID policies, but as of last year, April, there are no longer any COVID policies. So you don't need to worry about vaccination, proof of negative tests, or anything of that nature. So you're good to go there. Just need a valid passport. If you're traveling from the US or the UK or Australia or Canada, anything like that, your passport is going to be perfectly fine. If you're traveling from other countries and you're not sure, please double check with your embassy that your passport is all you need. There are some countries, though not too many, that require a visa in advance. So, for example, India is one of those. I believe you would need to be sponsored and actually apply for a visa if you're going to travel from India with an Indian passport. So, just be aware of that because I know we have a few people from around the world. Just make sure you're good there. All right, immigration. This link is posted. Maybe not my link. This is my short link to get there, but the immigration link, it's called Visit Japan Web. This is posted in the resources channel or thread. And this is something you will want to do before you go. It essentially allows you to fill out all of your customs declarations and things of that nature before you arrive. That way you don't have to do any of it there. They will provide a QR code for you, and you will just scan that. They scan your passport, they let you through. It's very fast, very easy. You don't have to do anything extra if you do in advance. If everybody wants or has any concerns or needs help with it, I can maybe hold a live session for that in the future where we all kind of go through and do it together in case there's any confusion. Addresses in Japan are formatted differently, for example. There might be some questions around that, things like that. So, luggage. This is a big thing for Japan right now because of the bullet train rules. So, but in general, my advice to travelers is to consider packing light. Japan is full of crowded trains, hills, stairs, uneven stone paved roads at times. The lighter you pack, the easier your life will be. However, a lot of people are probably going to buy a lot of things, and so that may not be a complete option for you. If you still have flexibility in your schedule, I recommend leaving Tokyo for last. That way, most people or whatever city that you're flying out of, leaving that for last and generally Tokyo is where most people buy most of their things. Plus, we have Star Wars Celebration in Tokyo. So not having to carry your luggage full of souvenirs and swag and anything else that you've bought around the rest of the country for 2 or 3 weeks, depending on how long your trip is, you probably don't want to do that. So, yeah. Do it in Tokyo. That way the bag stays in your hotel and you can fill it. And the only time you have to lug it is to the airport. That's my general suggestion. As for bullet train rules, because of the use of large luggage and how crowded the bullet trains have been, there's only so much luggage space. There is now a requirement that you get a reservation for larger luggage, but these are the requirements. If your bag is under 160 centimeters, this is linear length, so length plus width plus height, you just add all three up together. This is about 63 inches. As long as it is below that, you're able to travel on the bullet trains without worrying about anything. That bag will fit on the overhead just fine. If it is above that, then you are required to get a reservation. It's about 1,000 yen, I believe, which comes out to $7 US. And in my experience, those are pretty much, unless you book in advance from maybe eki.net or something like that, or you're booking 2 weeks out, they're pretty much always sold out. Very rarely do you actually get that reservation. Now, you can put the bag in front of you on the bullet train if it doesn't have a place to go, or you can, and this isn't exactly advice, but put it in the reserved areas. If they're empty, your only requirement is that you remove them if somebody needs that space. A lot of people will do that because sometimes there is extra space. So just be aware that there are reservation spaces. You cannot use them if other people need them, but you can probably slide it back. Travelers do it all the time. And then generally they say anything above 250 centimeters, which is I think 96 inches or 93 inches, somewhere in that range, linear, they don't want it brought on at all. Now, as a note, there is nobody standing at the bullet train doors checking this. So use your best discretion and be courteous of everyone around you, but just realize this only gets enforced at the moment that somebody needs the space and you're in the space, right? It's the same thing with seats. When you get a reservation on a bullet train for your seat, no one is checking that. No one walks past and clips the ticket and verifies it. They have a tablet or a phone and they can see every seat that's supposed to be filled. And if you're in the wrong seat then they will approach you and say, hi, this seat's supposed to be empty, so where are you supposed to sit? Can we see your ticket? Otherwise, you'll never be bothered. The idea is generally people follow the rules, and so only when it's obvious that something is awry will you actually be checked for anything. So just keep that in mind, be courteous of others, and yeah, everything will be good. So with that in mind, a lot of people choose to do laundry. They choose to say, I'm going to pack half my bag, pack 6 days of clothes, wash once on a 12-day trip, and be good. Me, I for a 2-week trip, I think I wash twice. Usually I take about 5 days of clothes. I wear only a backpack, but I go a lot, so I've kind of optimized my situation. A lot of hotels will have coin laundry available there in the hotel. If they don't, feel free to reach out to me. I can help source laundromats that are nearby if you're interested in traveling light, or an alternative hotel that would have laundry available if you're willing to switch hotels. So just an option. People do it, and it's a good option if that's the way you want to go. All right, power. This is a little bit from a U.S. perspective because that's most of my travelers, but this will go. This will make sense for everybody. Definitely bring a portable battery with you. You're going to be out, when you're traveling, you're out for 10, 12 plus hours a day, using your phone a lot probably to take photos and navigate and do other things. So make sure you have some kind of power pack that you can keep your phone charged. If you have a Wi-Fi, a portable Wi-Fi, most portable Wi-Fis, if you're renting one, which we'll talk about in a minute, last between 10 and 12 hours as well. So, if you're going to have a longer day than that and you want to have internet the whole time, having a portable battery just in case will make sense. Otherwise, power in Japan is the same, is not exactly the same as the US, but it's close enough to the US that any device from the US will be able to work and be plugged into pretty much any outlet in Japan. The one exception here is that they do not have grounding pins. So this third grounding pin is not going to work if you have a laptop with you, for example, and you've got, that's usually going to have a grounding pin. You will need to have something that converts from 3 pins to 2 pins, or if you have like a power strip that accepts, a regular 3-prong plug but only goes 2 into the wall, something like that. So for things like that, for anyone who's not in the US, you can pick up any of your power to US or your power to Japan. Both should work, but again, if you just happen to have one to the US, make sure it does not have that grounding pin on it. Otherwise, you won't be able to use it. Okay. So that is, the frequencies are slightly different with the alternating current. The voltage is slightly different, but they're essentially close enough that it doesn't have an issue unless you have kind of an older analog style clock that relies on the frequency of the electricity to, tick its seconds, and then you'll have a clock that slowly gets away from actual time. So, food. Japan does not have a concept of allergy safe environments for food. So this is just something to be aware of. If you're in a seafood shop or you're a restaurant, a sushi restaurant, and you're like, hey, I'm allergic to shellfish, know that they don't have a designated no shellfish cutting board typically, and things like that. So it is important to at least be able to communicate if you have an allergy. I do have allergy cards. They look like this, that are able to. They were written by a native speaker. I am not a native speaker, and so I trust them because of that. Because there isn't this concept of having these sort of designated safe areas, this phrase at the bottom is, are traces okay? Kind of, can my food be in areas where this allergen is, kind of idea. If you have a very light allergy or like you could just circle no, but if yours is like anaphylactic, then you would circle yes. And that would help indicate to them how severe the allergy is, and all of that. If you need a dietary card, I'd be happy to supply one. I can swap out, whatever the word is, like avocados with whatever. I have a couple, like shellfish, I already have one, but I'd be happy to help, excuse me, get that for you and help you out with that. So just something to be aware of. I've also done them for dietary restrictions, such as I don't eat, whether it be for religious reasons or dietary, I don't eat pork, I don't eat beef. You can do that as well as a non-allergy thing. Yeah. So for a gluten allergy, I don't have a card, but I can certainly create one, Neo, and we can get that to you. Um, you probably won't have too many issues with gluten in Japan in general, um, but just something, you know, there's a lot of soy sauce, so maybe you know, that might be an issue potentially. But we'll see. But yes, please just send me a message because I probably won't remember, and I'll help you with that. Yeah, though the production over there is different. So there are I had somebody who has a soybean allergy who could have soy sauce because of the way that the process and it was made in Japan is different, and so yeah. So we can do some research to double check that for you as well. Otherwise, yeah, maybe ramen and some shoyu, but cool. All right, budget for food. I recommend typically about 6,000 yen a day. This is about actually 40 US dollars now, I think. I think about 30 British pounds per person per day for food. This is going to be your basic run of the meal. Eat at 7-Eleven for breakfast, have, curry for lunch, and have a Japanese barbecue for dinner, kind of with some snacks in between. It's enough to feed you. If you're a really big snacker, you might want a little bit more because you're going to try everything on a stick you see as you're walking. If you eat really, really light, you probably will have extra money at the end of the trip. If you are doing anything related to Michelin star meals, Kobe beef, anything specialty like that, that is not accounted for in this. That you should plan for separately, but just so that you're aware, generally speaking, about 6,000 yen is plenty to get you through what you need. So you have just a concept and idea of how much food is going to cost you. Currency exchange. So we all have credit cards. Please make sure your credit card does not have foreign transaction fees. Otherwise, you're going to end up spending a bit more than you were anticipating. If you do have foreign transaction fees, consider doing more cash than credit cards just for the sake of convenience for you in terms of the extra spending. If you don't have foreign transaction fees and your card doesn't charge you for any of that, then consider using card more often because it is very convenient, but you should still always have cash. Japan is still heavily cash based. There are a lot of situations that you will run into where they only take cash. And so while you can use your card all over the place, if you don't have cash, you will find yourself in a situation. Elke asks, is there a recommendation on how much cash a day might be good to have? I would recommend, if you're just going to walk around with it, having $100 to $200 worth of cash just on you just makes you sort of immune from anything you might run into. Unless you already know, hey, I'm going to this really expensive place. I don't know if they take card. I'll prep for that. But otherwise, just having a couple $100 worth of yen just on your person should cover you. Generally, what are you going to need per day? I would say you're probably not going to need more than $30 a day of cash, realistically, if you're going to go card for the entire time. But, always just have a small sum on you because every time you go to shrines and temples, they're going to be cash only. Street food vendors are going to be cash only, things like that. So yeah, no problem. All right, so where to exchange? So there are definitely places you don't want to exchange. Do I say that? Yes, I say that here. Do not exchange with Travelex. I don't know about foreign situations, but here in America, here in the United States, if you go to a U.S. airport and do your exchange, you're going to get ripped off. It's really, really bad, those exchanges typically. So I highly recommend you don't do it in our airports. I can't speak for, UK airports, Australia, Canada, or anybody else. So where do you exchange? Check with your bank. some banks can actually provide a decent rate if it's far enough in advance. And if you get enough yen, they won't even charge you the fee that they have. So check with your bank to see what the rate is and do some comparisons there. Do it at the Japanese banks in the airport. They typically are going to give you some of the best rates that you can get. I can't speak for every situation, obviously, but they are generally very, very good. Anything 3 to 6 cents off of what you Google is going to be decent. 3 is obviously the best, but if you Google and it says $1 US is 145 yen, and you go to exchange, you're probably going to get 140, right? Something around there, maybe 138, maybe 141 if you're really lucky, right? You're never going to get exactly what Google says because that's the rate the banks are exchanging to each other. So just be aware of that. Anything more than say 6 cents difference, then there might have been a better option out there, but that's just what it is. We don't always have the luxury of sourcing the perfect situation. So if you don't have any way of doing it before you leave, you can just bring in cash and do it there at the airports. The rates are pretty good. In Japan, I should specify, the airports in Japan. And then you have 7-Eleven. 7-Eleven international ATMs, they pretty much work with any bank. I can't say any for sure, but they have a list of hundreds. They might have a list online, you can check, but pretty much any major bank will work there. You put your ATM card in, and you can pull out whatever cash you need. So you can't take cash to it, but you can pull cash out of your bank as yen. They do charge you a small fee, but the rate itself is pretty decent. So if you're not pulling out $5, then it's going to be worth it. They are everywhere. Every single 7-Eleven has an ATM, every single one. So you have access pretty much everywhere you go to get cash out of an ATM. Some people do prefer to go with a small sum of money and then just pull cash out as needed. That is certainly something you could do. This is my recommendation, when you pull cash out of a 7-Eleven ATM, it will ask you, do you want us to charge your bank yen, or do you want us to do the conversion and then charge it in your currency? Always let your bank do the conversion. They get a better rate than 7-Eleven. I tested this myself. I did 2 different. I pulled $100 out, had them charge me versus just pull 100, or not $100. It was 10,000 yen. Had them do the conversion versus have my bank do the conversion, and there was a like $7 difference or something like that, just on that $100. So always, whenever given, even when you swipe credit cards, whenever given the option, do you want this to be in USD or British pounds or yen, always select yen as the option. Your bank will be able to do it better. So just FYI for that. All right, shoes. I hopefully don't have to say this, but I'm going to say this, and this is going to be brief. If you need new shoes because you're like, hey, I'm going to be in a foreign country and walking a lot, buy your new shoes like a month in advance and break them in. Please don't buy them the week before. You will hate your life. Okay, just quick little comment on that. I have had customers do that. Please don't do that. Save yourself the pain of the blisters. So, all right. And it is also somewhat tropical. It is also primarily mountain in a lot of places. And so weather is a thing. You're going to have rain. You're going to have weather. It's almost unavoidable. Winter would be the time to go if you want as little rain as possible. But we're all going in April, which is in the middle of spring and right before Tsuru, which is the monsoon season. So at least we're skipping monsoon season. That's good. But just be aware. Bring an umbrella or have a rainproof jacket or have plastic ponchos that you can kind of use and dispose as necessary. On the umbrella portion, you really don't need to bring an umbrella. You can get them at the 7-Elevens and the Family Marts for pretty cheap and then carry it around with you for the majority of the time that you need it. Leave it in the room when there's no rain that day. Take it with you when there's going to be. You don't even have to take it home. The joke in Japan is that umbrella, while it is a safe country and there isn't a lot of crime, they will steal your umbrella And that's because everyone has the same looking umbrella. They're all clear with white and black handles. And you go into a restaurant, you put it in the caddy there, and on the way out, somebody will accidentally grab yours, or theirs is completely dead and broken. And so they'll steal yours, and then you get the broken one. And then on your next trip, you swap your broken one out for a good one. And that broken one just keeps getting passed around until somebody gives up, gets rid of it, and buys a new one. But they're usually only between 500 and 1,000 yen, which is going to be between $3.50 and like $7 US. So they're not expensive at all. And, so you don't have to go with an umbrella, but I would still have something to protect you or your bags with you. In April, we are looking at generally, though it has been getting warmer as of late, so I might need to update these, 52 to 68 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 11 to 20 C, and an average rain of 2 days a week. Now, this average rain of 2 days a week could be a sprinkle, it could be a downpour, it could rain the entire week and not rain for the rest of the month, right? It could rain the entire week before you get there and not rain at all while you're there, right? I can't promise or guarantee anything, but just be aware that rain is likely, at least some rain of some kind. Nothing in Japan typically shuts down due to rain, unless it's like really, really bad. Anything going outdoors is still going to go. There'll just be umbrellas everywhere. So that is generally how that works. All right, Wi-Fi and eSIM. When you are in Japan, most of us do not have providers that give us just automatic connection in Japan. They have a different network altogether anyways. So check with your provider. A lot of Verizon, AT&T, and some of these will give you like a $10 a day where you can still have phone, I think calls and data and things like that. Validate whether or not calls are included, because sometimes they are and sometimes they aren't. However, if you don't want to spend $10 a day, there are cheaper alternatives. One is Wi-Fi and one is an eSIM. I don't recommend doing a SIM card, a physical SIM card. You certainly can. I just don't recommend that to people because I don't want to be responsible for them losing their original SIM card if they only had one SIM slot and they had to take that little chip out and put the other one in. So portable Wi-Fi is for like a 2-week trip is typically going to run you about $90 or so, maybe $100, less than $10 a day usually. And then an eSIM will be, I think, less than that. But a Wi-Fi can be shared among a group, whereas eSIM would be individual. I can provide options for both. For the Wi-Fi, the one I use, so I see the question, how many gigabytes would you recommend per week? The one that I use, which is through Japan Experience, when I do use it, you can go to japan-rail-pass.com, and they have Wi-Fi there. It is 3 gigs a day, which is sufficient. As for a week, that's a great question. It really is going to depend on you, but just for navigating and going around stuff, 5 to 10 gigs per week should be more than plenty for just that. But if you plan on doing a lot of YouTube streaming on trains when you're not connected to Wi-Fi, or you're going to consume a lot of media when you're not on Wi-Fi, then you might want maybe more than that. But again, the Wi-Fi that I recommend, it's 3 gigs a day. That's pretty good. The eSIM, I use Olafly mostly. There are a bunch of others out there, Airlo, UBG. There's a lot. UBG is great. They're probably the best service in terms of, but you have to be a little more technical to get the stuff installed via their app. They have data limits. Olafly has no data limit, and I've used it pretty regularly, and it's pretty good. So, but I can share some of those resources if they're not already shared with you. But yeah, I'd say 5 gigs a week should be plenty. Even 1 gig a week would probably be fine if you're not, again, sharing and constantly doing things like that. But yeah. Yeah, I'll post the asked if the portable Wi-Fi I recommend was through Japan Experience. Yes, it is through Japan Experience. They have a website called japanrailpass.com. It is not the official Japan Rail company with that domain. There are dashes between those words. I can put it in here for you. Japan -rail-pass.com. They are not the official JR company, but you can get JR passes through them as well. There's a few providers that do that, which we'll talk about here in a second. But I use their Wi-Fi. It's pretty good. It is $200 if you lose their Wi-Fi, so don't lose the Wi-Fi. They always provide it to you with a mailing envelope, so that when you're done with your trip, you drop it in the mailing envelope, you seal it, and you just drop it in a mailbox. It's already addressed and everything. So it's really easy to return it when you get back to the airport. So, yeah. All right. So for the JR Pass, this is becoming a more debated topic now that the prices have gone up for rail passes. The JR company has a transit pass that is available only to foreigners called the JR Pass. This transit pass comes in 7, 14, and 21 day increments and allows you to use any JR train during the active period of that pass. This includes bullet trains, local trains, stuff like that. The primary purpose of getting a JR pass really these days is going to be because your bullet train usage exceeds the cost of the pass. If you are, and so there are some calculators online. I believe japanguide.com has a calculator where you can kind of get an estimate of which pass is worth it. Since the cost increase, they've been less worth it. If you're only going to be in Tokyo, you don't need a pass. If you're only going from Tokyo to Kyoto and back, you don't need a pass. It's better that you just buy the ticket straight out or get a different regional pass that's going to be a little bit different, a little less money, but it constrains you because you don't need to go all the way to maybe Sapporo and Hokkaido or all the way down, to Kyushu and things like that. So for me, my general recommendation is if you have 4 or more long bullet train rides. This is Tokyo to Kyoto, Kyoto to Hiroshima, Hiroshima back to Kyoto, Kyoto back to Tokyo. If you're doing that, then that's about equal to the value of the pass. And so then it would be worth getting the pass potentially, because then any trips between like Kyoto and Osaka can be done on the bullet train, things of that nature. Any other side trips, then you're just gaining value at that point. So yeah, online calculators are really easy. But again, my general recommendation is 4 long haul trips should be essentially equivalent to what you're looking at there. I like how I didn't put a T there. It's often better to get a pass, not to get a pass these days. So it's really going to depend on your itinerary. Use the online calculators. I'll happily post one in resources if it isn't there already. And if you have any questions and you want verification, sometimes it's an even sort of, well, it's about the same, so is it worth it? And then we could talk about other benefits the pass has. And we can do a whole talk on transit, I think. That could be useful. So, all right, Suica and Passmo. So this is the other one. Everyone goes, what is Suica and Passmo? Do I need it? How do I get one? All of that kind of stuff. So a lot of people will say, well, I have a JR pass, so I don't need that, right? That's actually not correct. The JR pass is only for JR trains. In Tokyo, all of the subway lines, the Tokyo Metro, that's a local city line. That is not a JR train. The Ginza line and a few others. There's a lot of local lines there that aren't JR. And so in Tokyo, you're generally not going to use the JR pass a whole lot. In Kyoto, there is the Keihan line, which is its own private company that services a decent portion of Kyoto. That won't use the JR pass. So while there are plenty of JR trains, and you will use them for in Tokyo and in Kyoto, you will use them. Not every train is, and so you would have to buy a paper ticket, right, for the distance you're going and figure out the value and buy that and then insert it and go through. Or you get a Suica card. So a Suica card is for anyone who lives in any city that has transit, like San Francisco, East Coast, Boston. A lot of them have these IC cards, right? It is a card that you touch and it communicates with the turnstiles and the computers there, right? Touch to enter, touch to leave, automatically deducts the balance. In Japan, so let's go down here. In Japan, you must have cash to put on the card. Okay, you can go to once you have a card, which we'll talk about, you go to any train station, you put the card in, and it goes, oh, hey, you're an IC card. How much money do you want to put on it? And you put in your cash, basically, and it spits the card back out and you're done. It's very easy to recharge them, but they take cash. Can't do cards. That may be changing in some places, but for the most part, you must use cash to put money on them. As a note, well, actually, that'll come later. So, yeah. So you can use these for more than just trains, though. But basically, it's like a debit card. You put money on it. It's got money on it. Tap to enter, tap to leave. It automatically deducts the balance. If you're ever short, it'll beep, beep, beep at you, and you'll just go to the machine that is available for anybody that happens to, add some cash to it, and then walk through, right? It's very, very easy to use. So, do you need one? Yes, you absolutely need one. You must have one, or you're going to hate your life. Every time you want to go anywhere, you're going to have to stop. You're going to have to go to the ticket machine. You're going to have to say, I'm going from this station to this station, and that's going to cost me 240 yen, so I need to buy a 240 yen ticket. You don't want to do that. It's really going to dampen the whole trip. So you absolutely need one. So where do you get them? They are available in the airports when you arrive. So if you can't find them for any reason, you can always ask. But at the JR office in Haneda and Narita, you can get them. At the Keisai counter in Narita Airport, you can get a Passmo. It doesn't matter whether it's Suica or Passmo. Those are just different companies doing the exact same thing. It's going to be irrelevant to you for your trip for the most part. You can get them in the JR offices in Tokyo Station and a few other stations now. Because of the IC shortage, there has been kind of a whole shifting of what's available where. But I wouldn't wait until that point. I would get them in advance when you go there. There is the Suica. I don't know if I have a copy of one here. There is the Welcome Suica, which happens to be red, the regular Suica, which happens to be green. You have the Passmo, and then you have the Passmo Passport. They're all going to be the same for your intents and purposes, with some differences that I'll highlight. They all work the same in terms of you put money on, you use them to charge for trains. You can also use them at vending machines and things like that. Get one for sure. Go to the JR office. Some of the airports have a kiosk where you just go in and slip in some money and it spits out the card with that money on it. But definitely go. Okay, definitely get one. You're going to need one. But can you use your phone instead of getting a physical card? If you have an iPhone, and only an iPhone. I actually haven't validated for Google phones, so I may have to update this information once I do some research. But pretty much, the iPhone is the only one you can do it with. You go into Apple Pay, you go to Transit, you'll have a Suica card there, and you can go ahead and use that. Visa and MasterCard should work to add money to it. And then you can use that. Mark that as your transit card, and then you can just touch to pay anytime you're traveling. You don't have to go to that in Apple Pay or anything. If it's set as your primary transit card, it will just automatically work. Your phone could be asleep. It doesn't matter. You just touch your phone and it'll charge, or it'll interact and it'll pull money off that card. So Android phones, unfortunately, do not right now unless you bought that phone in Japan. This has to do with the IC chip communication methods for close contact communication. iPhone didn't want to build regional phones, so they just put every chip in their phone, which is called the Felicia chip, if you really want to get technical. Not available in most of the Android phones unless you bought an Android from Japan. Then it's obviously built in for that. So, yeah. So iPhone wins this one, guys, if you're in the war of Android versus iPhone. Some points to note. One, like I said, cards can be picked up at Tokyo Station, but I really recommend you get them when you're at the airport. Don't wait. You can actually buy them in advance on Japan Experience as well and have it shipped to you. It'll come with $0 on it, I think. They used to have a much better one where it came with 2,000 yen already on it. But it's a bit of a cost just to get a card in advance. I think it's like $10 or something, and it doesn't have anything on there, when you can just get it right when you arrive. So I don't recommend you have to get it in advance and have it shipped to you. You can just put it on your checklist for your arrival and get it while you're there. As a note, for most of the cards that you will end up with, not everyone, but for most, the Passmo Passport and the red Welcome Suica, any money you put on that card cannot be taken off, okay? You can't get it back. So do not put $400. Well, you can't put that much, but do not put $200 on the card, because then you're going to be trying to use it at every store and hopefully to get money off of it. This isn't true for all cards. The green cards for Suica can be turned in and you can get your money off of it, but for all intents and purposes, just go with the mindset that you can't. Besides, most people want to keep that card as a souvenir after they've gone to Japan. It's kind of a cool little thing to have. And so I highly recommend you start with about maybe 5,000 yen and just add 10,000 yen notes after that point as you go. Because especially if you get a JR pass. If you don't get a JR pass, then maybe you could start with a little bit more. It's going to depend on the length of your trip, how long you're there. But just start with 5,000 yen. You know, if you do get the red welcome Suica, the nice thing is your first day is free, essentially. Not reserved trains. So if you're in Narita and you're taking the Narita Express, that's a separate charge. But yeah, first day of local trains, I think, is free on the welcome Suica. But yeah, so start with 5,000 yen. And then just add 1,000 as you need. So that's my general recommendation. All right, medications. We're almost done, guys. Thank you for holding on for this. I do appreciate it. Medications. A 60-day supply of over-the-counter meds and a 30-day supply of prescription meds is generally allowed. So if you're not going to be there for more than 30 days, as long as they are in sort of the original bottle with the original labels and all of that, original packaging for OTC meds, you're fine. There are exceptions. There are banned medications. There are things that aren't allowed. It's basically narcotics and stimulants. Anything that is an upper. This may include some ADHD medications, so which people don't always think about. So just be aware of that. If you have any specific questions, feel free to reach out and ask me, and I will look into it if I don't already know the answer for you. So things like Tylenol Cold, NyQuil, Sudafed, anything with pseudo in it, pseudoepinephrine, right? Codeine and morphine and anything with those kinds of pain meds, with narcotics, are not allowed. If you need them for some reason, and you must request special permission, and that's going to require a doctor's note and a form to fill out and all of that. If you need more than a 60-day supply of OTCs or more than a 30-day supply of prescriptions, maybe you're going on this trip and you're going to make it a 2-month thing, and Celebration's just going to be in the middle of it, you need to fill out a form. They're big on paperwork over there. I can send you, just if you need any of that, let me know. I think we'll put it in the resources if it's not already there, the form you need to fill out for that. So just be aware, there are more things regulated there than there are at least in the States. So just there's also a medication list in resources as well for everything that is currently not allowed. If you go to maybe Eric can drop it in the Japan resources channel, it should have links there for thank you, for the medication lists. All right. One of the final questions here. Should I know Japanese? The short answer is no. You don't need to know any Japanese. While they don't speak a whole lot of English, there have been major updates since the Olympics. English is now used on all trains, in all train stations for the most part that you'll be in, and in the airports. It's on the signs, and it's also in the audio announcements. So at least in terms of navigating Japan, you should not need to know any Japanese to be able to navigate Japan. However, knowing some Japanese would be helpful, and could open doors. I have had situations where somebody maybe denied me entrance to a restaurant until I spoke some Japanese, and then they relented. What you're going to find is that you might see some restaurants that say Japanese only. They're not allowed to discriminate. So posting a sign publicly like that would get them in trouble really, really quick. They're not necessarily doing it to discriminate, though that might be their hope. What they're saying is our establishment doesn't speak English, doesn't have English menus. We only know Japanese, only Japanese here. And so do not come in here if you can't communicate with us, because it is very difficult for them as an establishment. It also makes them nervous. They don't want to try any English and things like that. So just note, They are a society that is about not looking bad or messing up. They don't want to try English, even though they probably know a little bit. Everyone in grade school learns some English there. They won't. They won't sit next to you on the train because they're afraid that you might talk to them. They will tell you they don't know English even if they do know a little because that's difficult. They don't want to embarrass themselves. So just be aware. Some Japanese could be helpful. I don't have a list of like survival phrases you should know, but I can certainly put one together. Otherwise, basic Duolingo will be enough for you to learn something that would be useful. I think they start with a lot of travel stuff, anyways. So while I don't recommend Duolingo if you want to be a serious language learner of the language, for travel, it's perfectly fine. People will understand what you're trying to say, and you'll be good. So if you ever just want to start doing that for the heck of it, you can. So yeah, so knowing Japanese would be useful, but it's not required. And the reason for that is you have Google Translate. Now, there are now other AI-powered translation apps out there. Excuse me. I have not tried them all. I cannot tell you how good or bad they are. What I can tell you is I do know Google Translate has started using AI in the background, and it does well enough. It's got camera translation, and you can just point your camera at stuff. It'll live translate it. I do recommend downloading the language pack in Google Translate because then it works offline, or you just don't have to wait for it to go up to do that. Things like that. You can turn on audio translations and it'll auto detect conversations. It even has a prompt that you can share with them that says, "Hi, I would like to use Google Translate for us to communicate. Would that be okay?" And so it's a really, really useful tool, especially for things like menus. So definitely I would recommend getting that. And then Google Maps. Google Maps is the best navigation tool for foreigners in Japan. There are other navigation tools, Navitime, things like that are great, but if you don't want to have to install other apps and things like that, definitely Google Maps, not Apple Maps. Sorry, Apple loses this one. It's just not as useful. I'm happy to go over a separate session and record a how to use Google Maps effectively in Japan because there are some tips and tricks in there. But the primary one is that Google will tell you what platform to stand on, so you don't even have to worry about what the line is called or anything like that. You just go to that platform number, and it's really convenient. So, yeah. All right, so that concludes the general travel to Japan kind of situation we got here. That is everything I had for today. Do we have, let me check. I was going to say we can go into like questions because I'm sure there's going to be questions. If you want to ask your question verbally, then you can go ahead and raise your hand and we'll give you access to come on stage. There is a Japan AMA channel, and let's see. I don't see any questions in there just yet. So, but yeah. Oh, I don't know if I can give. Do I have permissions to give? Let me see. Invite to speak. There we go. Yeah, I have a question here in this channel that says, doesn't the subway close at a specific time if we are out late? Yes. Trains in Japan pretty much run till about between 12 p.m. and 1 a.m. I've sent the invite again, but yeah, it's up to you. So trains run between.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, can hear you. I'll finish answering this and then you can ask your question. Pretty much if the last stop is before 1 a.m., that's kind of the last train out. So it might be at 12:30, it might be at 12:15. Just be aware, on Google Maps, you can actually tap on the line and scroll up. and it shows you every train and the time it's leaving, so you'd be able to kind of see where the last one is. If you get stuck out, you're going to have to take a taxi or just find a all night bar and hang out and have a good time. So, all right, Subaka, go ahead.
Hey, what advice do you have for booking flights? Like, how far in advance is the ideal time? What airlines you recommend? That type of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good question. So, in advance, typically 6 to 9 months is the window. We're just outside that window now, technically, but that doesn't mean that it's all bad. But I think the most ideal, typically, a lot of airlines have discount tickets that they put up, and there's a limited number of those, and those go first. So they're usually 6 to 9 months out is what you're looking at. If you're talking about airlines, the only strong recommendation I have is going to be do not fly Air Canada. I do apologize for anyone who is here from Canada. For some reason, Air Canada in the last couple of years has really had a lot of problems. Every single customer of mine that has ever flown Air Canada has had an incident of some kind: lost luggage, delayed flights that cause for a missed vacation, like just issues in general. Otherwise, my recommendations are Asian Airlines first. That's well, Neo, hopefully it works out for you. I have had one person, I should say, fly. Uh, Again, I don't know what's going on with them, but Asian Airlines first. Japan Airlines is going to be, let's say, the best, but also the priciest. Singapore Airlines would then be the second best, and then ANA. ANA also lately has had some things, but not like lost luggage and stuff like that. Their service just isn't as good as Singapore Airlines and Japan Airlines. And then I have also flown Delta, which was really a pleasant experience. And so those are the ones I have direct experience with that I can speak to. I can't speak to United, though they cross list with ANA, and I can't speak to American, though they code share with Japan Airlines. One final comment is Zip Air is a budget airline that is run by Japan Airlines. It is limited in terms of which airports are available. I think mostly West Coast airports. You'll have to check. They are about 2/3 of the cost, I think, of Japan Airlines and other airlines. They are worth doing. They are good. The caveats here are you have to pay for your meals, but the package with the meal is still less than the regular flight. And they don't provide an entertainment screen, which at first glance might make everyone panic for a 12 to 14-hour flight to not have an entertainment screen in front of you. However, they still provide the entertainment. They just don't provide the screen. You have a slot to put your tablet or phone. They give you free Wi-Fi on your trip. You do not have to pay for Wi-Fi, so you will have internet for the entire time. And they still have a media server on the plane that you can get to from that Wi-Fi to still access all the entertainment options. They just don't provide the screen. So really, it's the same thing as any other flight. You just have to pay for your own food, and it's less. So it's a decent experience.
Thanks, Nate.
Yep, no problem. Let's see. CT, you say is I'm going for around 2 months. How much money should I put aside for trains and transport only? Rough estimate. Let me think about that and get back to you. I don't want to offhand calculate that in my head and get it wrong. So we've got a question from Elkie, it looks like. Welcome.
Hello, thank you so much. This has been incredibly helpful. I missed maybe the first couple of minutes, so you might have covered this, but I was wondering if you could speak a little bit on the whole like luggage shipping thing that I guess hotels do, but also there's other stuff. I haven't spent too much time researching it yet.
Sure.
But yeah, if you have any recommendations or advice on how to make
Yeah,
that work.
I actually did not cover that, so that's a great question. And so there is a company. It's usually two black cats. It's like a mom cat holding a baby cat, and they are a great company. I'm trying to remember the name offhand for some reason. Yamato, I think, is what it is. I don't know why my brain is yeah, Yamato, I believe. And they're great. And so pretty much you can just go down to the hotel counter and just say, hi, I'd like to ship my luggage, and they'll just bring out a form. You show them the address, they'll fill it out for you. You pay them, and then the luggage gets shipped. Yeah, there it is. There's the logo. Thank you, Eric. However, there are some things you should know, right? If you're shipping within Tokyo, it's pretty much going to be same day. So if you're like, hey, I'm at the airport and I want to ship my luggage from the airport, and you go to like the JAL ABC counter or the Yamato counter, because there's usually one there, you should be able to do, like 6-hour delivery kind of thing. 6 to 8 hours, your luggage will arrive same day. If you're arriving really late at night, probably won't arrive till the next morning. If you're going across country, it takes 24 hours, generally speaking. And so if you're like, hey, I'm going to ship my luggage, today, it's not going to get there till sometime tomorrow, generally speaking. If you're going way up into the mountains somewhere and it's really rural, then it could take 2 days. So the advice is, if you're going to ship your luggage, which it is worth doing if you have a lot and heavy luggage and things like that, take a backpack, have a change of clothes, have your toiletries, have your meds. Always have that with you, and expect to go 1 day without necessarily having your full luggage with you. That would be the biggest. I've never heard of anyone losing their bag, because they are really, really good about this. But I have recently heard that if a hotel receives the luggage and they can't reference the name properly with someone who's checking in that day or has already checked in, they may actually refuse it, and then it gets sent back. It's not like it's happened often. I just letting you know what I've heard. Again, I don't know how frequent that is, but generally it's a very reliable system. That's probably the only thing I've ever heard about it. So.
Great. Yeah, that's really helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Let's see. Liam was asking, is that something you do yourself every time? Drop it off and request pickup. I don't, because I carry just a backpack with me for the sole purposes of basically always being hands-free and never needing to deal with that. When you travel often, you're probably one of the people most likely to experience a hiccup because you're using the service more often than everyone else. And so I just choose to just do that. But that's me. I'm not carrying, big luggage and all that. If I was bringing it 2 giant suitcases to fill, I might, do that. I've had customers do it. It works just fine. But no, I myself don't generally use it. All right. Any other questions? Please let me know. I've got some time. If not, if there are questions and you didn't think of them now or anything like that, then please put them in the Japan AMA channel, and I'll be able to answer them there asynchronously.
Well, I have a sort of a more specific thing. So if anyone has more questions, happy to let them go first. But
Okay, let me hit what's in the chat real quick, and then
sure,
then
go ahead.
So Arsenal asks, where will this video be located? Good question. It is recording right now. I'll have the export. I'll probably clean it up. We'll probably put it in the resources channel or something like that, and we'll announce where it's at. Eric can probably speak more to that. So yeah, okay. Most likely there, probably within 24 hours. So. All right. Let's see. We've got dash render. What do you pack for a 10-day trip? So for me, what I typically pack is about, obviously, the clothes I'm wearing plus about 5 days of clothes. So I plan to only wash once. I don't take 6. I don't take 7. If I already know it's 10 days, I take just enough to cut it in half, and I just really make sure I have laundry available. That's up to you if you want to be that risky. I usually only take like a couple of pairs of shorts and wear them for, make 2 days each, or pants, however it might be. I take deodorant and a comb and a toothbrush, and like that's it on my toiletries. I usually take a collapsible duffel bag so that if I do buy things, I can just fill that, and a battery and power stuff, and that's basic, and cash. That's basically it. I take very, very little. I'm really minimalist when I travel now. all the hotels offer shampoo and soap and all of that, so I don't bring any of those things unless you've got, certain situations where you need specific stuff. You can also get, most toiletries are available in the lobbies where you can kind of pick your own. I need a toothbrush and I need this. And as well as you can usually get an ironing board and an iron if you need it. You can usually get a hairdryer if you need it. So I just travel extra light. As for finding places to do laundry, yeah, it's generally easy to find them. I can kind of give you guys the secret. You need to put coin laundry in katakana and search for that in Google if it's not at the hotel. But a lot of hotels have coin laundry built in right there on one of the floors or two of the floors. So that's kind of generally how that goes. So if your hotel does not have laundry, please just reach out and I'd be happy to double check if there's a coin laundry nearby. So yes, yeah, cosplaying is a different matter altogether. So no, you do not need to bring detergent. The coin laundry in there will wash with its own internal soap and dry all in one. So TK.
Yes, hi. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. I have this question apropos light packing. I would like to do that, and I don't know if you're familiar with sizes there. My problem is like I'm very tall and people there are not very tall. So the problem is like, okay, if I pack light, would I easily find clothes, in my size, would you say? Or is that probably not the case?
It's likely to not be the case. There are some stores that sell clothes for larger individuals, obviously, because they do have the occasional tall person. But most of those stores are in like Ryogoku, where the sumo wrestlers are, and they're really meant for bigger, not taller necessarily, though sometimes taller.
I see, yeah.
I would definitely, in your case, if you're like, oh, it doesn't matter, I could just go buy a shirt. I can't do that being a double XL guy. The largest sizes are double L there, which is like large for Western. So, yeah, we do not fit.
Yeah, okay. I'm very tall.
Yeah.
Rather, that's my thing.
That's fair. How?
Oh yeah, okay.
If I ask how tall?
Yeah, around 2 meters. So I don't know. That's
Okay.
6'6" maybe.
Yeah. No, that's a lot more than 6.
It's gonna be.
So it's gonna be about.
Yeah. So
6'4".
t-shirts might be fine, but
yeah. I would expect that you will not fit in most clothing. I can source stores that specialty stores for that, but it won't be readily available.
Yeah, all right. Okay. So no light packing from me then, I guess.
I mean, it depends. Shirts you probably get away with. They do like bigger, baggier, like longer kind of clothing for men these days. So you probably could get away with for your height. But for pants and shirt and any sort of leg wear, no, probably not. So.
All right. Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks anyway. Yeah. I'll stop talking though. But my son is calling me. Finish watching the film.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for the info.
Yeah, no problem. Marty asks, are vendors inside? Are they expected to have cash or a credit card? I actually don't know what the norm is at cons. I haven't attended a con in Japan myself. I would imagine that they will accept both in most cases. That's a great question. I'm going to write that down, and I'm going to see if I can source an answer for you on that, because I don't entirely know. So. And then as for Dash Render receiving Amazon packages, you can receive packages at hotels in general, as long as it has your name on it, and then you just come down. There might be a fee, though. Just like here in the US, I've been able to ship stuff to hotels, but they charge by the weight. I don't know how they do that necessarily. There might be Amazon Locker in Japan, but I'd have to verify that. So I've never done that myself. It depends on what you're expecting to need. Most things you can probably buy there in the country. So. Is there any unobvious no? So CT is asking, is there any sort of thing you shouldn't do with, I'm guessing, with how you dress that might not be obvious? I would say, so Japan is a more conservative, we'll say, society, but as a foreigner, you pretty much get a pass on everything. And so technically, no. You'll see that even in summer, they don't even wear shorts half the time. They're always wearing pants and suits and all of that. I wear shorts and a t-shirt and I stand out, and I know I do, and I'm okay with that because I like to be comfortable. I would say the biggest no's would actually fall more on the, like, don't go shirtless, for example. Probably would not be appreciated unless you're at the beach. And for women, you'll notice that they don't really show cleavage. They don't really show their arms as much. They show leg. They'll wear skirts and things like that and show leg. But they won't really show chest and things like that. It's not that you can't, just be aware that that's not common for the Japanese women to do. But otherwise, unless you're out in something extremely revealing, you're probably not going to run into any major issues. So, tattoos, for those who do have questions about tattoos, they are less of a stigma than they used to be. So just be aware that if you have a bunch of tattoos, it might draw some attention, but you're not really going to get anything more than that. If you want to go into an onsen, there are some tattoo-friendly onsen out there. There used to be a list online, but you have to. I don't think that list is there anymore, so I can help source. There are places I stay that do that, and so yeah, that is an option. We can get. Sorry, I know you just dropped. I was gonna hit you up in a minute, but my bad for not getting back to you fast enough. All right. Yeah, so tattoos, you might get, like, if it's a really hole-in-the-wall mom and pop kind of shop, maybe you'll get denied because you have tattoos, but it's been rarer and rarer. So, yeah. Okay. All right, so Iwakian asks, is it worth taking advantage of tax-free shopping, or is it not worth the trouble, given they might lock the items in a bag? All right, so this is entirely up to you. If you are buying something from a tax-free shop and it's not consumable, meaning it's like a t-shirt, or it's not something that you can eat and consume and things like that, they won't put them in the special bags and tape them up and all of that. But if it is a consumable item, then they will. Kit Kats, for example, and things like that. The disadvantage is, like, when I go, I don't think I have it here. No, I don't. I have a giant 1 gallon bag of Kit Kats. I just came back and I filled like 2 or 3 gallon bags of Kit Kats. I buy them, I open them up, and I dump them into the bags because the boxes take up so much space. I don't have the room. And so if you're going to go tax-free, they're going to put it all in that special bag. They're going to seal it, and they're going to say you're not allowed to open this till you get home. So it becomes a space issue for me, not so much a should I do it or not for the tax benefit. It's great for the tax benefit. Pretty much now on your, I think this is not my passport, but on your passports, this is my wife's, just scan the QR code that's on the sticker that they give you when you arrive, and associate it, unless you're buying more than whatever the limit is, which is $600 to $800, I think, worth of stuff. No one's going to check you on the way home, and it's not really going to matter. So because of that, some people will go tax-free and then rip open the bag to, repack it so it's better for them. And, that's just a risk they're willing to take. It doesn't generally get checked unless you've got, thousands of dollars worth of stuff that you've been buying. You're trying to stock a bar or something. Yeah, so it's worth doing. It's just, if you're buying stuff that's pretty packaged in boxes that takes up extra space, then you're just dealing with that. So, all right. So I'm gonna do Lone Star's question, and then Elke will have you do yours. All right. Lone Star says, sorry if I missed the question, but I was late. How much cash would you recommend bringing if you're there for a couple of weeks? Cash is going to vary. There will be this as well, a recording of this available so you can cover anything you might have missed, Lone Star. We'll be posting that up here in hopefully a few hours after this, but within 24 hours. But generally speaking, cash cards are accepted most places, but there are a lot of things that are cash only, so I would recommend at least always having a couple $100 worth of cash in your pocket, or couple 20,000 yen worth of cash in your pocket, just to have, maybe not more than $300, $400, $500 worth of cash, generally speaking. And if you need more, have an ATM to go to 7-Eleven if you want to be light on cash. I usually take around $1,000 worth of cash, just in case, but also I go often enough that I don't ever change my money back into US dollars because I just keep reusing it for my next trip. So yeah, cash is minimal now in terms of requirement, but it is required. You will absolutely need cash, so definitely have some on you. Especially if you end up going to I'm going to buy a sword that's $400 and the place happens to only take cash, right? So those are the kinds of things that you may end up. Elkie, why don't I move to you? You've been waiting so you can ask your question.
Yeah, sure. So one of the things we're looking at doing, my group, before Celebration is spending some time in the Japanese Alps. So if you have any experience there, I have some questions on the Alpine Way and all that. So I don't know if you have experience with that.
I don't.
If not, I can. Okay.
Now, when you say Alps, you're talking like Takayama, north of Takayama, Nagano Alps?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. Those three sort of mountain ranges there on the main island.
Right.
Because, and maybe this is a weather question then, because I gathered sort of mid-April they're still going to be pretty much totally covered in snow, and in fact, many of the things I've looked at doing just won't be open at all yet. So, yeah, my question was going to be if you have any recommendations of things to do on high up mountain in that area that might be open at that time. But that's all. Thanks.
Yeah. I don't have experience with that. I was just up north on a different set of mountains, and I stayed at a place which was pretty cool. You had to hike into it from the road. It was an onsen place. It was nice. They close from basically November to April, right? Because there are no snowplows up there. There's no access during that time. The Japanese Alps are very similar as you're finding. It gets really, really heavy snow. And so, yeah, we just have to check essentially what's open, what's not open, what transit is running, what transit isn't running in some of those areas, and just be aware. I haven't done it myself. I'm happy to check, and I have some resources in Japan that I can ask, and maybe, if there's anything you can't find out or I can't find out, we can go to. But yeah, if there's very specific things like, hey, we wanted to go to this place or this hotel or do this activity, and I'm not sure if it's possible, I'm happy to work with you just to figure that out. So
Sure, I might hit you up on the side. Thank you.
yeah, no problem. All right, so a couple of other questions from chat. Have I ever had trouble with Amex? I don't use Amex personally. My understanding is that Amex is more widely acceptable now than it used to be, more accepted now than it used to be. However, it is possible you may still run into a situation where Amex is not accepted. Less and less now, especially in places like Tokyo. But generally, Visa and MasterCard are the recommended, most widely accepted cards. Amex, while I think is not as much of an issue, my general recommendation is still to bring a Visa or MasterCard if you have one. So, all right. The next question is, speaking of a sword, if you were to purchase one in Japan, how would you bring it back to the States? I haven't had anyone buy a sword yet. My understanding is that they will package it up for you so that you can check it, and it should be fine. I will have to double check that, though. I don't have direct knowledge, so I'm just going to write your name down here and copy this, and I will double check because I haven't done it. So I have ideas of what I think I know, but those could be wrong. So I'd like to verify that before truly answering. Yes, that was one of the things in my head, Serpentor. You are right. You do need a certification from the shop that it's not like a cultural item because they don't want you taking some, 700-year-old sword home. That is culturally significant to the nation. So, yes. But anyone selling swords to foreigners should know this and should provide that to you by default. All right. Elkie, you're asking, have you heard you've heard, I have heard the Ghibli Museum is hard to get in tickets for. Truth or myth? This is truth. However, I have always gotten tickets for them. So if we want to do a little powwow session and get those, we can certainly do that. If I have anybody traveling in April, though, they're my priority. Obviously, they're my customers. But I'd be happy to do that. The way that it works is in Japan on the 10th of the month before at 10 a.m., I believe is what it is. So for me, West Coast, it's the day before at 6 p.m. The tickets will go on sale. You get in to the website early and it puts you in a general queue. And then at that time, at the 10 a.m. in Japan or 6 p.m. West Coast time, 9 p.m. East Coast time, it will give you a random place in line. There's usually about 30,000 people trying to get roughly 10,000 tickets for the month. So if you're anywhere under the 10,000 mark, you'll probably be able to get a ticket, unless your particular day sells out really, really fast. I have my ways. It does a cookie session, not an IP address check. And so if you use the right tools, such as Tor browser, for example, and you do multiple sessions in the Tor browser, you can have actual unique entries, and you can be in there 20 times in the queue and get 20 random assignments, and hopefully by just rolling the dice, you end up somewhere sub 2,000, 3,000 in line, and then you're able to get tickets. That's how I've done it for my customers pretty regularly. I've never not gotten tickets, but they do sell out pretty much day one, and if you're anything above 10,000, you're likely to not get. Yes, like Acceleration VIPs. This is true. This is very true. Yeah, TK, you're asking, and I know you had this question about Japanese translations as well. Have you heard a problem about using tripods around shrines? Generally, I haven't heard or seen any issues. I have seen people using them. I've never seen anybody approached and asked not to use them. If you're around, shrines and areas, if there's a no photography sign, then obviously respect that. But beyond that, there generally isn't an issue. If you feel like there is an issue, I can give you some language there. And it like some really just basic phrases just to be able to say, is this okay? Like that's all you even have to say. Tripod daijoubu desu. Like, is this okay? Daijoubu desu ka? That would probably be enough. I'll write it down for you. But generally, no. You shouldn't have any major issues. So, let's see. Okay, I don't think I missed any questions there. I know our audience has been slowly dwindling, and that's okay. We've been here a while. But like I said, if there's any questions and I'm not here, please put them in the AMA. No, I don't need to accept any tips. Thank you. But not doing that, for this. Appreciate it. But no tips. Okay. speaking of tips, this is actually really great. Thank you, Elkie, for reminding me. Tips in Japan, how does it work? What do you do? What do you don't do? A lot of you have heard you don't tip. This is generally true. Do not tip. When you're at a restaurant, do not leave money. They will either A, be confused, or B, come running after you to give you the money back, or whatever. It creates a lot of confusion. The price is the price is the price is the price. There's not usually anything hidden. In fact, most of the time, when you're looking at prices, it'll show the price, and then parentheses underneath, it'll show a lower price. The price they present to you initially is the price with tax, and the lower price underneath at shops is the price without tax. So they actually tell you exactly what you're going to pay right up front, tax included in most prices anywhere you go. For tipping, there are a few exceptions. One is going to be guides. If you do hire a guide for a day, or you go on some kind of little guided tour thing, guides will accept tips, potentially at least. And taxis, it is okay to tip a taxi, though generally speaking, if you're paying with cash, like if you pay with card, the tip option doesn't even show up. If you're paying with cash, you can usually just like let them just be like, oh, that's okay, like keep the change. They'll at first say no, you insist, and then they'll accept it. That's a very Japanese thing to do, to always be humble and say, oh, no, I can't do that. And then you insist, and they say, okay, thank you. That's a very cultural kind of exchange there. Beyond that, that's really the general limit. If you hire, again, a driver for the day, you can tip the driver. If you're hiring a guide, or you're part of a tour of some kind, like you go to a sake brewery and they give you a tour, tips are okay. But as a caveat, handing straight cash to somebody is usually not, it's not culturally acceptable. It's considered a little crude to them. And while, again, you're a foreigner, you get a path. If you don't want to bring some white envelopes, if you want to give a tip, you put the cash in the white envelope and you hand them the white envelope. This is because they are willing to accept gifts. So if you are staying at a ryokan, not like a general hotel, but a ryokan where they're going to be serving you dinner, and you're going to be, it's a little more intimate, right? If you're going to have a guide, consider bringing something from your local area. Like out here in California, Knott's Berry Farm shortbread cookies, something that's very specific to kind of your region as a gift to them to say thank you. They love that more than cash in many ways, just because that's something they do. I just went on a trip to Japan. Granted, it was sponsored by the Tohoku, or the Miyagi Prefecture government. But everywhere we went, we were shown areas, and I was given gifts for all kinds of stuff. I was given a bottle of sake. I was given postcards. I was given so they love to give gifts as gratitude. And so always have something with you that you could then provide a gift to them. No, I don't necessarily. Sorry, Dash Render's asking if it's food items over a like a trinket, right? You said tchotchke, right? Am I understanding that correctly? I'm like, I haven't seen that phrase in a long time. Yeah, a little like a trinket or a gift. No, those would be fine too. That would be perfectly fine if you've got like, oh, this is a, my town has this thing where we all get together and make a bead necklace every year or whatever. Like, and there's like, you could give them the bead necklace as like, here is something from me, from my part of the world. That would be fine as well. But definitely consumable items, I think, are generally liked, because otherwise those aren't things that they just sort of collect and then they just have all this stuff, and what are they going to do with all that? So SF5000 asks, how are restaurants' reaction to modifications to menu items? Generally, people in Japan don't modify the menu options. That's not something you do. It's not really normal for them to do. And so if you were to attempt it, it might be met with confusion, especially if they don't speak any English or choose not to speak English. and things like that. Most okay. So you're allergic to raw eggs, and it seems that gets put on everything. Actually, yeah. Wait, raw egg? You're not allergic to cooked egg by any chance? This is just more of a personal curiosity. So for allergies, I can help provide an allergy card to help make your life a little easier. Gotcha. So the heat changes the protein. I see. That makes sense. So there is a lot of soft boiled as well. I don't know if that causes you any problems. So that's really weird and really particular, in terms of, not like you're weird, but just like to phrase that. But we can put together a card that says that you can't have uncooked egg, essentially. And then you can show that at least at restaurants and stuff. Generally speaking, the only thing that you're going to need to avoid for uncooked egg is, one, ordering it specifically, because a lot of like breakfast places or like beef bowl or like salmon, they'll give you like a rice bowl with a raw egg that you could crack into it. You don't have to do that. You would avoid oyakudons or any of bowls like that. That's the chicken egg family bowl. They put basically a raw egg in over the hot rice, and they mix it in and all of that. So the heat lightly tempers the egg, but wouldn't be cooked. Beyond that, ramen with this, don't order the soft-boiled eggs. Though they are soft-boiled, even if they put it in there, it's whole, so you could just take it out and it shouldn't be a problem. Other than that, there's not, like, as a tourist and where you eat and what you eat, it's pretty easy to avoid raw egg in general. They don't put it in drinks as far as I'm aware, other than like going to the store and maybe buying like a protein drink of some kind. Maybe that would be there. But since that's not typical common behavior, you should be okay. But yeah, just message me on the side or reach out, and I'd be happy to try to put together an allergy card for you. Yeah, Dash Render, there are cocktails with white egg whites, but I've never had one, so I don't know, you know. Serpenter's asking, I want to try a lot of new foods. If I don't like them, do I have to keep eating something gross so I don't offend? No, you don't have to. Even if you did somewhat offend, I think forcing it down and gagging is going to be worse than just saying, I didn't like it. If you're really picky and you want maybe a phrase for not liking something, I can give you that, just so that you have a way to communicate that you're not eating it for that reason. But no, if you go to a restaurant and you don't touch any of your food, you pay and you leave, they're just going to be like, okay, and you're going to be good. So there is times that I've gone to a ryokan and done a kaiseki meal, and there's a snail on there, for example, and I don't do squishy foods as much, and I just couldn't do it. I tried it, couldn't do it, left it, didn't feel bad, wasn't really worried about it. No one cared, so it's okay. Lone Star says that I have seen that some restaurants now have two menus, one for locals, one for tourists, with higher prices. Have you experienced this yourself? I have not experienced it myself. I don't think it's as commonplace as the internet is trying to make it out to be. That being said, I don't know for sure if I've ever been to one of those places. The only way to know is to ask for the Japanese and English menu and to compare them. I usually just ask for the Japanese menu because I'm always trying to work and practice and be better at that and be immersed and all of that. And I just translate it if there's anything I don't know that's on the menu. And that's what I recommend for most people to do if they want. English menus are great and they're convenient. But again, I don't know if I've ever been in one that did. So I've never been in a situation with my guided groups where they had an English menu and I had a Japanese menu and our prices were different. So yeah. Arsenal, you said your cousin told you that they upcharge if you ask for the English menu, and he went recently. However, if you ever translate, you could just use that. I'll be honest, I've never like double checked my receipts, so it's possible that an upcharge was being put on there. Yeah, not sure. That's something that, again, I don't recall having experienced too often, but it does exist, so just to be aware of. I'm gonna lower this. Sorry, guys. It's getting a little bright. All right, I'm going to give this another 2 minutes. That way I can close this up. If you have any final questions, please post them. I'm happy to answer them. And then the AMA channel will be there for any questions after. So, oh, I saw an invite to speak and then it disappeared. There we go.
Hello again, that's me.
Yep. Welcome.
I was wondering, how do people react like if you would use translation like Google Translate or ChatGPT? Do they prefer like you keep to English, or do they actually are they open to using digital tools to try to communicate with them in Japanese instead?
Yeah, they're very open to using technology. They're very open to doing that. If you break out the app and you speak into it and you show them, you can have them speak into it. They're willing to do that, generally speaking. It's usually not an issue. If you're there communicating with them at a restaurant or anything like that, they're willing. If you just walk up to a random person on the street, obviously probably not, but in general, yes, that's fine, and it's widely accepted. If you go to like Disney and places like that, their little devices already have a translation app on there, and they use it quite often to communicate with you as well. So there are like theme parks where there's kind of expected, they do that naturally as well. So that's really nice. You could also install the Japanese keyboard onto your I forget what it's called, but on your phone there's a Japanese keyboard that it has it in a grid like this. And basically you press and swipe for the different sounds and they know how to use that. So you could also, if they didn't want to speak, offer them the Japanese keyboard and they'll just, type it out really fast too in the Translate app. So.
Oh yeah. So is that in the resources? Which keyboard that is?
I don't think that's in the resources, but I can look into that and add that for you.
How about like landing in Narita and then if I would choose to take a taxi, I assume they would at least know basic English to understand
the taxi drivers might understand some basic English, though I would highly recommend that you don't take a taxi from Narita. It's going to cost you $150 to $200 US to do that, and whatever equivalent in any other currency. The trains are faster, simpler, and cheaper, and I would highly recommend that. If you need any specific recommendations, I can give that to you. I can look at your arrival time and just
but how about luggage? Like, because I'm just thinking, I'm just too lazy, like, because it's me and my son, so we're gonna have at least we're gonna have two. We're gonna have two suitcases and then more than that.
So
that's why I'm thinking, like, I don't want to. Like, train's no problem, but I'm just thinking, like, once you get to Tokyo, it's probably a lot of stairs in the metro.
Yeah. Okay. So your experience will be like this. Go to the JR office. Obviously, you're gonna have your luggage with you in the airport. Go to the JR office, book a ticket on the Narita Express. I don't know exactly where. Do you know what city or area in Tokyo you're staying in?
In the beginning, it's gonna be in Shinjuku.
Okay. So perfect.
Probably. Yeah.
Are you close to? You're gonna stay close to the station, I assume, in Shinjuku. So
no. It's the APA there, close to the Godzilla hotel.
Okay. I was gonna say there's probably 3 or 4 APAs there, but
yeah,
I know where you're talking about.
Something tower.
So this is what I recommend. You're gonna go to the JR office, get a Narita Express ticket. It's about $35.
Yeah.
$30 a person. Actually less than that. Sorry. Once you do it's like 3,500 yen. That's gonna go direct from Narita to Shinjuku Station. Then there,
Oh,
when you
okay.
exit the station, you can get a taxi if you want to, so you don't have to walk the mile with the luggage that it's going to be to get to your hotel, whatever, whether it's half a mile or a mile.
Especially if I don't find the right exit.
Yeah, that's a pretty classic problem. But generally speaking, that's what I would do. It'll cost you way less. You're gonna literally walk onto
Yeah,
the
yeah.
platform, put your bag in the overhead or in the seat behind, area, sit down and just relax for an hour and then get off. It's not there's in the train stations and all of that, there's going to be escalators. You put your bag in front of you on the escalator on one step, you step on the other one, up you go. There are also elevators. You won't have to carry your luggage upstairs for the most part in that situation.
In Tokyo, do you stand on the right or left side on escalators?
You stand on the left side. You stand on the left side.
Right, of course. Left side, of course. Yeah, of course.
But in
Everything is on there.
Osaka, it's the opposite. In Osaka, everything
Oh yeah, I
changes.
read that. Yeah.
Yeah. So in Tokyo, you get used to walking on the left. You get used to standing on the escalators on the left, always leaving that one aisle open so people can run if they not supposed to, but so they can run to get to wherever they need to go. But then you get to Osaka and you're walking down the street and you're like, why am I walking against traffic? I don't understand. And then you realize I'm in Osaka and I need to move to the right. So, yeah.
But the traffic is left also. It's left-handed traffic in Osaka as well.
Yeah.
So the car
like
traffic.
car traffic doesn't change in Osaka, but the where people walk changes because Osaka is kind of a bit of we'll call it a punk version of Tokyo, and they just want to be different, I guess. I don't know what to tell you. So.
Okay, interesting. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for that. That's probably a good compromise.
Yeah, I would definitely. It saves a lot of money. It's more comfortable. Like it's a good way to go.
And
If you want to send me the hotel you're staying at, so, like the exact one, I can check it and I can let you know what kind of walk you would experience if you chose to walk it. So.
all right, thanks. Just one quick question. Now you mentioned train on the Narita Express. How is it with luggage space? Because I know on the Shinkansen, it's a bit problematic. You need to
So Narita Express,
book
you don't need to worry
list.
about any of that. The Narita Express is designed to be the express train to the airport. So there is at the end of every car a section of place where you can slide your luggage. You don't need to worry about paying fees and things like that. So it's not an issue.
And no worry about running out of space either. Like you have a big suitcase.
Generally, no. It depends on if your luggage is really, really large and it doesn't fit on the overhead. There is, like I said, there's space in the back, but no. Generally, no. I'm also generally it's not a full train either, so you could always just slide it into an empty seat area. Yeah, I've had people do that.
I guess they run quite often as well.
Yeah, there's about every half an hour. I think there's one.
Yeah. Okay.
So, yeah. Awesome. Thank you.
That's okay.
All right. Lipe asks, is it true that you shouldn't walk and eat in Japan? Yes, this is true. There's also true that there's not a lot of trash cans, but there's absolutely no trash floating around. So, the should you walk and eat situation is all about cleanliness to them. It is not about, like, no one's going to say anything to you. If you're eating a sandwich as you walk down the street, no one's going to say anything. No one's going to stare. That's not going to happen. However, it is culturally acceptable not to do that because it generates trash. You unwrap your thing, you're eating it, now you have trash. You have no place to put this trash. And so it is more likely that that trash will be littered when you consume food while traveling. Generally, people don't eat on the local trains, but you can eat on bullet trains and the Narita Express and things like that. Anytime you're sitting and there's like a table, kind of like an airplane kind of table that sits, then you're allowed to do things like eat. But walking and eating, yeah, it's a bit of a faux pas, let's say. Generally, what you're supposed to do is buy the thing, eat it there, hand the trash back to the vendor. So if you're doing street food, oh, that looks good. That's pork belly on a stick. Get it, eat it there, hand that trash back to that vendor. They will take the trash. They will put it in their trash. That is generally what is acceptable. So that's, yeah. Otherwise, have a little bag with you to put your trash in to throw it away when you get back. Train stations and like 7-Elevens are pretty much where you can find trash cans, generally speaking, but they're not on the street corners like they are here in the US. So, all right. Liam is Sir. I don't even know how to. I want to pronounce your name. It looks like Guillermo almost. Guillaume. But I don't know if it was meant to be French. So I'm just going to call you Sir Liam. Asks, at Haneda, there is a train that has space. Is there a train that has space for luggage like the Naruto Express, or is it better to ship luggage? So Haneda has the monorail. There are other lines. There is another line that comes out of there, but it does have the monorail. The monorail is a local style line, but it has very specific space for luggage. It has little platforms and for you to like actual like caged in areas for you to set your luggage and all of that. And so yes, but that will only go as far as Hamamatsucho. After that, if you're going somewhere else, you're going to have to take a local line, and there isn't a place for luggage, but you can just, most of the local trains, think of it like a, New York subway. You could just stand there with your luggage. Something everybody should be aware of is when you're on trains, generally you'll see everybody move their backpack to the front of their chest and put their arms through that way. That way you can see where you are and where your body and their bag is, and you have more control over everything. If you have a big backpack on and you turn right, you could accidentally knock somebody on a crowded train. So you'll notice people tend to put it on the front. But luggage, I mean, you could take them on the local trains, but you can go from Haneda to Hamamatsucho. Again, if you're worried about it, please hit me up. Let me know where your hotel is. I would be happy to tell you, kind of depict for you what that kind of travel situation would look like, and to see if it's really worth doing, luggage shipping or not. Yes, Sir William. I mean, that's fair. My father's name was Guillermo, and when he came to the U.S., he uses William. So I knew it was probably that. In French, I think it's Guillaume or Guillaume or something like that. I don't know, but yeah. Perfect. Okay, so that's different. That's but you use William. Okay. Fair enough. All right. Serpentor, where can I smoke and what do I do with the cigarette butts? Good question. Smoking is now not widely acceptable in Japan. It has been slowly phasing out. You will find that on some train platforms, you have to go find them, but there are smoking rooms now. There are smoking rooms on the bullet train, so if you need to go smoke, there's like a little... It's kind of sad. They kind of relegate you to a room or a closet, depending on the situation. There is a butt disposal there. Generally speaking, you should not be smoking just on the street. You'll see that. There are a few rebel Japanese guys who do that occasionally, but generally you find the smoking room and you do that. Again, they are available in quite a few places. There are some restaurants that still allow smoking. What to do with the butts there, I'm not entirely sure, but if they do allow smoking, I imagine there's an ashtray and then you would just deposit it there. So yeah, pretty much. All right, guys, I think we're gonna wrap it up there. If you have any other questions, please feel free to post in the Japan AMA. I really appreciate you all being on, and I'm just happy that I'm able to provide some help and support as everyone's kind of getting ready to travel to Japan. So I'm gonna cut the recording here, and I do appreciate it. Thank you.